You're listening to Ka-Pow, the pop culture podcast. Comics, television, movies, and more. If it impacts fan culture, we have something to say about it. And now, your hosts, Jordan, Cliff, and Seth.
All right, everybody, no time to waste. It is 11:05, and we have a hard out at midnight because one of us has a normal job. My name is Jordan Lowe.
I'm Cliff Barnes.
Oh, we're all business, but we got a guest here tonight. He's back, people. We're going for the trifecta. Jesse Starcher.
3 episodes in a row. This is going to be a blast, guys. Thanks for having me back.
Sure thing. With the last 2 episodes, we've just done some fun, abnormal things.
The fun's over.
Fun's over.
Back to business.
Back to business.
I don't think I've had a chance to sit down on a regular
That should
show
be
with
our
you guys.
freaking slogan. The fun's over.
Back to
Welcome
business.
to Ka-Pow.
B2B, right on the back.
Oh, my gosh.
So Jesse joins us from the Source Material podcast on the Radulich and Broadcasting Network. We'll give you all the
A lot of things
info
happening over
at the
there.
end.
Stay tuned to Jesse.
Yeah.
He does like 10, 12,
Too many.
150 shows a week.
Too many.
All right, let's just get right into it. Let's talk some movies.
Save Martha! Puny God.
I'm just a kid from Brooklyn.
I'm Batman.
Kneel before Zod! On the roof!
Said it yourself, bitch. We're the Guardians of the Galaxy.
So what's it gonna be, huh? Long sullen silence? Or mean comment? Go on.
You got me in a box here.
All right, I just wanted to remind everybody I'm counting down my top 100 on our page every day I put out. It's a chore, let me tell you. It's like I get ready to go to sleep in the morning. I work midnights, I come home and I'm like, oh my gosh, I still got to post whatever the movie is. Anyway, that's the behind the scenes. Yes, it feels like it's taken your whole life for me to get through this top 100 and mine too. So
It feels like it's flying by to me, actually.
Oh, really?
I'm shocked how,
no
how
effort
long
whatsoever,
ago,
yeah.
how far into it we already
were
are.
really far. I think I posted my number 28 as of today, and I don't even remember where we left off on the list. I just know that I've exhausted all my Tom Cruise Wears a Mask movies. I think I may have had 6 in my top 100. So I may have a thing, a quirk I like. But I don't know. It seems like as I look at it, it's a lot of guy movies, which I'm a guy. So, I'm not going to go down the list. Check out our page. Like I said, we got 4 weeks left of this. It's 4 more weeks, but we're getting the cream of the crop, or at least mine. I mean, I look at what's left and I think, it's just special ones to me. They're not any better than any of the other ones. They're just ones that I connect with a little bit more. Maybe you will too.
Are there any left on your list you think will knock us for a loop that we would never believe would be on your list?
Never believe, no.
We're like, wow, I can't believe it. What a left field pick.
No. I think it'll be something like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? Maybe, but not you. You will be like, yeah, of course he put that on there, right? That's more like it. Anyway, check it out.
Facebook, where it happens.
Yeah. You guys...
Pictures, videos,
Everything's bullet points tonight.
We got slogans out the yin yang.
We're going to 2 times speed. Jesse's here.
Facebook.
Yeah, speaking of the fun's
That was
over.
Bravo where it happened.
Speaking of the fun's over,
yeah,
Cliff
you
and
guys
I
went
went and saw a movie.
Oh, boy.
Yes, we did. If you want to call it a movie.
The capper to the X-Men franchise, Dark Phoenix.
Ladies and gentlemen of NASA, this is Charles Xavier. Help is on the way.
We're doing space missions now. Cool.
We get the astronauts, we bring them home. Go.
The heat signature's rising fast.
We gotta get out of here.
Where's Jean?
Where is she? Jean!
She should be dead.
Did you hear what
the kids are calling you? Phoenix.
Hello, Jean.
Who are you?
The better question is, who are you?
Something's happening to me. When I lose control, bad things happen. But it feels good.
Yeah.
Which came out a couple weeks ago. We didn't rush out there on opening weekend.
Yeah, I don't know what we were thinking, not getting out there. As we mentioned a few weeks ago, Jordan's claim to fame, he has went and saw every X-Men movie in the theater.
It's going to be in my obituary.
Yeah, so we went...
Sooner rather than later.
We went to our local theater here in Marietta, Ohio, and there were a few people there.
It was pretty crowded for...
Yeah.
Tuesday night, 2 weeks after the movie opened.
Yeah. So,
big thing. Yeah, we're talking Dark Phoenix. This is the directorial debut of Simon Kinberg, who also wrote the movie. Fun fact, he also wrote X-Men 3: The Last Stand, which was the first time they tried to do Dark Phoenix on the screen.
Yeah.
So...
Just couldn't let that...
Second time's a charm?
Couldn't let that dog lay right there.
Didn't really work the first time. That was kind of got the... after X-Men 2, people loved.
Yeah.
And X-Men 3 was kind of a letdown for people. So, brought him back, brought him full circle, put him behind the camera.
Yeah, the first thing
I seem to like this movie a little more than you did, I think.
I mean, it was fine, good enough, I suppose. But the first thing I noticed, and I forgot to mention to you after we watched the movie, is there were like 1 million opening credits to this movie. Like, it was Walt Disney Productions presents a 21st Century Fox production, and there were like 1 million producers, and like it just took forever getting started on this movie.
Well, because it was like delayed a year, there were lots of reshoots, so there's been a Disney buyout, so yeah, it could be lots of cooks in the kitchen.
I was like, is this thing ever going to get started?
Yeah, this was supposed to come out a while ago, well before the Disney buyout. Ty Sheridan, the guy who plays Cyclops, he apparently revealed somewhere on, I think it was a podcast, it wasn't ours, so I can't confirm which one it was, but he said, which if you're paying any attention at all, Jessica Chastain was cast as a character and they just called her Smith because they're trying to keep under wraps who she was supposed to be, and there was speculation for anyone who cared, and it ended up not meaning anything. But apparently she was originally supposed to be a Skrull.
Okay.
Because I think
that would have made probably more sense.
Yeah, I think they thought Fox had the Fantastic Four license. Skrulls would go with them. They were going to use it. Things got delayed. A little movie called Captain Marvel came out. Had to do some reshoots and some rethinking of what was going on. So they also apparently had to reshoot the whole third act. It was supposed to be a big cosmic battle in space because you got the Phoenix Force. Her tearing through spaceships, blowing up Skrulls.
Yeah.
And then Captain Marvel came out, like I said, stole their thunder a little bit. So they had to rethink and make it a little more small scale, which I'd read the director said he wanted it. He was very inspired by Logan. He wanted it to be more human and not super giant cosmic. He wanted it to be about one-on-one relationships and the character development, which I don't know if it quite hit that. But.
Yeah, before we go any further, I'm just going to mention, just in case you're really into X-Men movies, we're probably at some point going to mention some spoilers in here too. So
you might. I'll try to be vague.
Yeah, I'm probably going to mention spoilers. So for instance, when they go up to save these astronauts in space, in the space shuttle, which I have to imagine, takes like a lot of propulsion to get into space.
Sure, propulsion.
We can just take our X-Jet now and zip right up into space. No problem at all. And
they had the Blackbird looking jet going on.
Yeah. I don't know why the astronauts didn't take a similar ship if it was just that easy. I mean,
Professor X is not sharing all his toys.
So it's pretty, Jean Grey becomes the Phoenix, gets the Phoenix Force, whatever. We know all that stuff. It's right in the title.
But yeah, this is my problem. Like, sitting there as the credits were starting to roll, I was trying to think, wait, what was the last movie?
Yeah.
Where did we leave off these characters?
It did not matter.
And I was having a hard time even remembering.
Even if you did, you were... See, I think we were better off not remembering, because if you remembered and you try to put this timeline together of these movies, it does not work.
Right.
At all.
And I'm also bringing a lot to it as a comic book fan. You know, when Scott and Jean have a loving look at each other, you know, I've got 40 years of X-Men reading to back that up, where these two characters were just introduced in the last movie and had maybe 10 minutes of screen time. Mm-hmm. So the movie's kind of filling in a lot of blanks.
Yeah.
If you just saw the movies, maybe you didn't have.
I think you have to fill in the blanks for the movie in a lot of the situations.
So, it also, we never really get the Phoenix established for this to be the dark version of that character. Mm-hmm. Like, she gets the power, she's turning evil. So
yeah, so originally in the comics, doesn't Jean get the Phoenix Force in, like, the 1970s or something?
Yeah, you guys just covered Dark Phoenix, didn't you?
Yeah, she gets it, oh man, I know it's early in, like, issue 108, I want to say, or 101 to 108 was the Phoenix Saga. Then it's oh my goodness, I can't remember the issue numbers for Dark Phoenix Saga. But yeah, she has the Phoenix powers for quite a while. She does fine with them,
and then it corrupts
they start
messing with her mind.
Yeah, it starts corrupting her, and her mental walls break down or whatever. She's powerful enough to keep this thing in check, and then it becomes the Dark Phoenix, which is, my goodness, when you read the comics, it's more of a force of nature than it is a sentient, like, evil being. So a lot of that is conjecture as to whether it's her, you know, becoming evil and just not being able to handle what's going on. But either way, you know, shoving that all into one movie sounds like a undertaking and possibly a big mistake.
And yeah, exactly. And if I remember right, I think it was supposed to be originally a two-part.
It wasn't? Okay.
Yeah,
well, that
I
would
think
make
that
sense.
was the original plan.
It would make sense.
But what they've done with these movies, at least the last few now, is they're kind of like, each movie is set in a different decade. So if you remember, I think the last one was in the 80s. This one takes place in the 90s. And then you go to the original X-Men, which is around 2000-ish. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of what they're going with. But, you know, a lot of people mentioned the last couple of weeks how if this is 1992 and that original X-Men movie with Patrick Stewart and Sir Ian McKellen in 2000, somehow Professor X and Magneto haven't aged at all in like 3 decades. and then suddenly they're old men in the first movie. So
yeah, well, they've changed the timeline, so anything can happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, there were things to like here. They kind of complicated Professor X's relationship with the students, and like, is everything, which they've done in the comics a lot, is everything he does, you know, he always thinks he's right and he's doing things for the right reason. This movie finally calls him out, like, you know, you're messing with people's heads. We're not saying you might be in the wrong here a little bit. Maybe you shouldn't have done this. So I like that they complicated that character. I thought the effects were good. This was some of the best use of the mutant powers I've seen on screen. You know, Storm, her eyes go white and you see some wind blow her hair, but like, she was throwing down lightning and there was some cool stuff. So
effects were good.
I heard Nightcrawler had quite a interesting.
Yes, Nightcrawler had a pretty sweet scene. The whole third act on the train, if you've seen any of the commercials or trailers, they've shown they're all on a train, which took the place of the space battle, and I thought it was exciting and it was really well done. So
yeah, it was good.
I think making it smaller scale helped, and it let all the mutants have a moment to shine and show off their powers and stuff. But it just, I hate to be that guy where it's not as good as the book, but it just missed what the book, you know, the book, this was before characters died and came back. Like, this was, you know, killing off a character like Jean Grey, an original X-Man, one of the first 5, was a huge moment in comics. And when it happened, it was seismic in the comic industry. So you want this movie to have that kind of feeling, and it just didn't. It just didn't. But it also lacked any of the like gray area of the comics, where in the book, Lilandra and the Shi'ar and the Imperial Guard, is that what they're called? They need to destroy the Phoenix for the good of the universe. And like, I know you like this girl. She's one of yours, but, you know, the good of the many outweigh the good of the few. And there's a moral question there. In this one, Jessica Chastain's just a villain.
Yeah.
And she wants the Phoenix Force and is going to... This is my biggest spoiler. If she gets the Phoenix Force, she's going to mess stuff up.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, well, we have to stop her. There's no gray area. So
she doesn't commit planetary genocide in this movie.
She commits...
Okay, that's fine. You don't have to
star
spoil it.
genocide. She kills a beloved movie star.
I want to talk about killing real quick in this movie.
Oh, okay.
Man,
Okay.
take your time.
So let's say Magneto, you know, attempts to kill Jean after she's gone all Dark Phoenix. And he almost does it before she stops him. And then she's like, this is how you do it. And she proceeds to crush his helmet into his head, okay? But then she stops just short and breaks...
I crush you.
to break apart the helmet.
I'm crushing your head.
Yes.
Right now.
I crush.
And takes the shards, the pieces of metal from the helmet, and thrusts them into his chest to kill him. But it doesn't hurt him.
He's fine.
He's fine.
He's Magneto.
Yeah.
And I was like, come on now.
All right, then.
But yeah, that Quicksilver, you know, I thought was going to be.
Oh yeah.
You know, he was a
bright
big
spot in those couple movies. Well, yeah. I remember going, man, this is the way to do Quicksilver right here.
And he's in 2 scenes, makes 2 quick jokes, and that's it.
That's what I heard. Yeah.
And the other thing was on the reshoots. I want to mention real quick. Let's just say old Professor X suddenly got very muscular, which he wasn't.
That glass body,
pre and post glass.
Yeah, and I was like, wow, it's looking mighty fit all of a sudden.
So yeah, even after changing the ending to turn away from Captain Marvel, it still had some of those beats. There was a whole thing about emotions. Do your emotions make you weak? Do your emotions make you strong as a woman? Being told how to handle your emotions. Me Too movements, wokeness, that kind of ending. Had some elements of Captain Marvel, but it is on track to have the smallest domestic opening of any of the 12 X-Men and or Wolverine movies, and expected to lose something like $100 million when all said.
Everybody's just waiting for some Marvel, X-Men. That's my deal.
Do you want to see him in the movies, or would you? Do you think it would be a good idea? No, listen. Do you think it would be a good idea to take something like Marvel's X-Men and put them on, do a series like on Disney Plus where they can develop? These X-Men
You're always
characters.
looking for content.
Well, the thing is that
Right.
it's rare that you see them develop a property and then bring it to the theaters. And
I
use
do
it.
kind of feel like they are going to not just... I mean, they're going to take their time with this. They have it now. I think it's going to be a couple of years. They're slowly going to do something.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to see anything immediately.
I wouldn't be surprised if they did something like that, like had some sort of show or introduced it into one of the Disney Plus shows before they got to the movie theater. But I want to see the movie.
They're already talking about redoing the animated series. Have you guys seen the story?
I did see that. Okay. That's pretty cool.
So, I mean, I don't know if that's Disney. I assume
it's
Disney. So, I mean, yeah, buddy.
Yeah, so
I'm your baby tonight.
I just wonder though, because that's been the downfall of these X-Men movies, is they haven't been able to develop individual characters very well, other than Wolverine, but yeah, so I don't know.
Well, I want to see him succeed, and I want to see, I loved the mutant books when I was a kid, and when X-Men 2000 hit, I remember being just flabbergasted that I'm able to see this stuff on the screen. It's just gotten better for the Marvel Cinematic Universe since then, but it's really disheartening to see the X-Men side of things just completely fall flat on its face. And there's a lot of industry stuff behind all that too, I'm sure, where Marvel's just like, oh, these are this is the black sheep of the family. We really don't want to promote these guys as much.
It may not have been fair like you said, we all know X-Men are going to Disney, and this is it, and there's no more, and there's reshoots and trouble and recasting and contracts, and it's like it's almost not fair to the movie. Like we already know. Like, well, let's just get this over with.
Yep.
So that's not great.
And I mean, you look at New Mutants. That's the other thing. Where the hell's that at? You know, people don't even know if that's going to show up now, or it's going to be direct to video or whatever.
Yeah,
so
Disney Plus probably.
Yeah, they're really rethinking putting those Stark girls in these X-Men movies. I think at this point,
I hate to see that it did so bad, but I mean, it is what it is.
We're spoiled. We got an embarrassment of riches.
Indeed.
I forgot to give a shout out to my customer Christian, the same guy who quoted that Avengers Endgame had the best moment in movie history. He came in before I got to see Dark Phoenix, and he goes, I mean, it's not as bad as everyone's saying. And I was like, oh, can I quote you again on the podcast? And he's like, feel free.
See, the guy that came up with Ka-Pow, fun's over.
So, yeah, not as bad as everyone's saying. Put that on the poster.
yeah.
So, you know, like I said, we have all these riches that didn't even go see this movie, where years ago I wouldn't have missed it.
Yeah.
So I saw you were watching some stuff with your son.
Indeed.
You're just seeing some old movies. Well, maybe we didn't have all these choices. What have you guys been watching?
Yeah, Caleb is now getting to an age where I think he can enjoy watching movies, which is great. He's 9 years old, and as a father, you start to watch and see, okay, what kind of stuff does he like to watch? Is he into the comedy stuff? Is he into the action? And so I've been kind of throwing things out there. So we watched Dumb and Dumber, a classic from from my high school
classic
years.
Action franchise.
Comedy, and this was shortly after we watched Liar Liar. So I was like, he's a Jim Carrey fan. I could tell.
Jim Carrey's humor should age fairly. A lot of physical humor.
Yes,
that kind of slapstick stuff shouldn't be dated.
Yeah, he had a good time.
I'm a Dumb and Dumber fan. I like that.
All right. So he's getting to a point where if he can, he will watch. Like I never watched the sequel. Dumb and Dumber 2? Yeah.
Well, there's one in the middle there.
Yeah, when Harry
not
met
real
Lloyd,
or whatever. I never saw that.
Yeah. But he asked me, he goes, Dad, I want to watch the sequel. I said, well, okay, I haven't seen it yet. And so I figured, he's going to wait on me. He's like, no, I want to go watch it now. All right. So I put it on in his room, and he watched it. And he's like, Dad, you got to, he kept coming over. You got to see this. You got to watch this. I was like, all right. So he's enjoying himself. But either way, then we get into the action side of things. And last year, if you were following me on Facebook, you probably would have seen that we went through the whole Die Hard franchise.
Yeah.
All right. Caleb loved every single minute of it up until the fifth one, which he did not like. But it was then recently made the decision to jump into some Keanu Reeves action-related material.
It is the Keanu-sance right now.
That's right.
We moved past the McConaissance, and we're in the Keanu-sance.
So we did The Matrix, which blew his mind. He had a great time watching that. Then I told him, there's a Matrix 2 called Matrix Reloaded.
No, there isn't.
You should have just stopped right there.
I don't think there is. I think you're mistaken.
We did not watch it, but he wanted to. I'm like, oh man, I really don't know if you're going to get this one, buddy. But then we watched John Wick. All right, now, I know, we're pushing the boundaries there. That's rated R for a 9-year-old. And I remember when I was a kid, sitting down with my dad and watching like Predator, and just, oh man,
right. Blowing your mind.
Exactly. And Caleb loved every minute of John Wick. So I said, son, I've never seen John Wick 2.
Yeah, I mean, what makes you feel more like a man at that age than an R-rated movie?
Point blank headshots. Just freaking
the gun fu was all over the place.
Muy macho. Like Ricardo Montalban.
So we enjoyed John Wick 2 together. And then I was like, dude, there's a John Wick 3 out in theaters. And I flirted with the idea of taking him to go watch it because he handled it really well. He had a good time.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've been enjoying ourselves here. Like finally getting into that age where I can kind of bond with
him.
It's
the golden years, man. I love sharing these movies with my son. It's just like, and I've developed. He has this the same taste as me. It's like I love that he recommends movies that I've recommended to him. I was like, that's right. Yeah. I've trained him. So this is your chance. I love it. Hey, we have a big, famous thing we do here on Ka-Pow. I mean, it's talked about all over the place. Where we...
It is known.
We induct...
It is known.
We induct famous artists into our Ka-Pow canon with the only job they've ever done. And Jesse's brought us one to do today, so let's do it.
One job forever?
Look, I have one job on this lousy ship. It's stupid, but I'm gonna do it, okay?
You tossers! You had one job to do!
All right. We sometimes struggle with this segment because one of us will bring an idea or one of us, I don't really. So this is not neutral ground. None of us know the name that Jesse's going to say.
It is. This is going to be interesting.
So if it's terrible, we know who to blame.
Here's the problem.
But it's never terrible.
There's
so
a problem already.
Pressure is off.
There is a problem because I want to make sure. I'm worried that you guys have done this one already, and I've listened to every show. So do you guys have the list just by chance?
We'll know.
All right. All right. So, but I have a backup just in case.
Okay.
All right. So you guys have to choose. I'll also pitch in here. The one job for Tom Hanks.
That's our only stalemate.
What?
That's our only one. We never could come up with an answer.
Yeah, we've done it.
Done that
we
one?
did.
And, okay,
Yeah.
well then okay. All right, so we're going to...
That's why you forgot, because there was no definitive answer.
All right then. So we're going to run out of the... We're going to go out of the realm of movies then.
Oh, right.
We like
now
it.
we're talking.
All right. Now, depending upon the familiarity of everybody here, it might be a tough one. So you guys have to do one job for Stephen King.
Oh my gosh. I like this one. This is gonna...
Now you guys are usually...
Novelist Stephen King?
I'm not... From what I understand, there are no bounds on the one job, correct?
There are comic books of Stephen King's work. There are TV shows of Stephen King's work. There's miniseries on TV miniseries. There's movies. There's like what do you call them? Books.
Books.
With words.
What do you call them? Books? What do you call them? Books. That's my favorite thing I've ever heard. Title of the show.
I mean, I guess if we're going to get into somebody's adaptation of his work, I guess we probably couldn't say that that's...
Yeah, that's not technically.
Not
he doesn't.
technically
He doesn't
his.
always have control over it.
That's not technically his. So.
But let's say when we say an actor, we say all versions of versions of that character.
Right.
So if your answer is Pet Cemetery,
we're including
you're talking
the
about the
movie,
book,
the
the
novel,
movie.
yeah.
I would say that every iteration of the property. Is that fair? Does that pass Poobah's muster?
Love it.
He's already making
I'm
various
making a
notes
list over here.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I'll start out.
Go right ahead.
Talk about some you like.
Oh,
You don't
okay.
have to-
Well,
don't start with your favorite.
Okay. Let's just talk
My
about...
my brother Justin's like at home slamming. He's like, I want to talk about this so bad.
It's killing him.
Member of
This is
the
the one he was going to bring.
member of the Stephen King library since he was a senior in high school.
Nice. Well, I can remember my
chronological order of his books.
Okay.
I'm just going to read down the list so you guys can refresh your
Killer
memory.
dog, killer hotel, killer car, killer shark, killer monkey. He did monkey
He
shines.
did a
right?
killer shark.
No, I don't.
He did a killer shark, dude.
There's a
Baby, so like. Baby, so Baby, so Baby, so Punky. 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 Mahoney. 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 Mahoney.
You guys are making more work.
Carrie.
Carrie. Okay.
Salem's Lot. The Shining. Rage. Night Shift. The Stand. The Long Walk. The Dead Zone. Firestarter. Roadwork. Dance Macabre. Cujo. The Running Man. Dark Tower. The Gunslinger. And so on. Different seasons. Christine. Cycle the Werewolf. Pet Cemetery. Eyes of the Dragon. Oh my gosh. A million more. The Talisman. Thinner. was the first one. Misery was the first one I ever read, and then Thinner. Let's see. Skeleton Crew. It. The Tommyknocker is terrible. The Dark Half. 4 Past Midnight. Needful Things. Gerald's Game. Dolores Claiborne.
I was waiting for it.
Carla Gugino. Nightmares and Dreamscapes. Insomnia. Rose Madder. The Green Mile. Desperation. The Regulators. Is Richard Bachman. Bag of Bones. Girl Love Tom Gordon. Hearts in Atlantis. Storm of the Century. On writing. Dreamcatcher. Black House. The sequel to Talisman. Everything's Eventual. From a Buick 8. More Dark Tower books. The Colorado Kid. Cell. Lizzie's Story. Kind of skipped around. Blaze, Doom McKee, Just After Sunset, Under the Dome, Blockade Billy, Secretary of Dreams, Volume 2. I don't even know what that is. Full Dark, No Stars, Lover 2263, Joyland, Dark Man, Dr. Sleep, Mr. Mercedes, Revival, Finders Keepers, Bizarre Bad Dreams, End of Watch, Charlie the Choo Choo, 6 Scary Stories, The Outsider, Sleeping Beauties, Flight or Fright, Elevation, The Institute. I'm sure that's out yet, but bunch of stuff.
Jesse, you brought this. You must have a affinity for the Stephen King.
Yeah,
what's your history with him?
So, man, I'm trying to remember one of my first readings of what book he, can't remember which book it was. There's
kind of what we're doing here.
Well, I can't remember which came first. Okay, so the one that sticks out most in my memory is my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, had went to I want to say it was a Salvation Army bookstore. That may be wrong, but it was down there on Wayne Street, I believe. And she picked up a book, and I don't know if you guys have seen these books, but they basically cut the cover in half. And I assume it's not for resale or whatever. But
yeah, those are the returns. Okay. They mark them as unsold.
She hands me The Dark Tower Book 3, which was
Wastelands.
Wastelands, yes. And so it's book 3.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so good. And I'm turning page.
Are you going to tell me the end?
After
Are you going to say something about the ending to that book?
That leaves you hanging?
The last words, I believe, are "Let's begin."
Yes. Oh my god.
Blew my mind. Like I was literally going to tell that same story.
Oh, dude. I remember reading it. I can remember like Sundays going with my dad, took us out to go camping and whatever, and I had that book with me, and I read it from front to end, and probably within a month or two. But it was the first ever time I sat down and read Stephen King and really, really enjoyed myself.
You had not read the first two, is that true?
No, I jumped into, this is
right.
What do we, there was, I can't even remember the characters' names now, but I remember
Eddie, Susanna.
What was the boy's name?
Jake.
Yeah,
and Charlie the Choo Choo.
Yeah, Charlie the Choo Choo right there at the end. So so I read that. And I've got to get the first 2 books. Make a point of that. Go to the library and get the first 2 books and catch myself up. So there you go. That's I think my first ever real exposure and enjoyment of Stephen King. But I end up getting a paperback of Nightmares and Dreamscapes.
Yeah. And
there is a story in there I will never ever forget. It's called. I forgot the name of it.
I'll never forget. No.
The plot of which I'll never forget. I believe it's called The Scratching Finger.
Okay.
So I don't know if you guys have read.
I've read that
most
for sure.
of it. Okay.
Yeah. I can't remember what you're talking about.
The story, Nightmares and Dreamscapes, is basically a anthology book.
Right.
I mean, there's a ton of different stories in there that are being told. So the premise is this guy hears a tap, tap, tap coming from his sink, and he goes over there and he starts to see a finger poking up out of the drain. And as the story goes on, this finger continues to grow longer and longer. Guys, just tons of knuckles until it's like going, all over the place. Knuckles. And he's trying to deal with the fact this is going on. He's got his wife there. He goes and buys a bunch of bleach and like hedge clippers to try and take this thing out. greatest story I ever remember reading, and I was like, this is so awesome. And of course, it was surrounded by a lot of other great stories. So Nightmares and Dreamscapes, that one is probably one of my favorite books by Stephen King, just because of how much content it has, number one, and how much enjoyment I got from it. However, I can tell you my favorite, and I still haven't finished the series, is definitely Dark Tower. Dark Tower, not only did I recognize the great storytelling that was going on there, but the fact that you start to piece together that all of his universes, all of his books are tied together in that one series. Just little hints. There's an encyclopedia or some kind of like appendix or something.
Compendium or something.
Thank you very much. Yeah, that I remember seeing at the library. Like, oh hey, you want to learn about how all these tie into the Dark Tower? This is it. Probably one of the greatest things I've ever seen. I'm a big crossover guy, so if you see creations coming together or crossing over with one or the other, I'm like, oh, that's pretty neat. I really like that. But so there you go. That is my affinity and what I've learned, and probably what I'm going to vote for if we vote for anything. But
that's kind of how this works.
Yeah. What are you?
I'm not. Can't say I've ever read a Stephen King book, but I've seen some movies and some TV miniseries and some more movies. And immediately I thought Pet Sematary.
Classic.
Yep. Yeah, an old Herman Munster.
Herman Munster.
Fred Gwynn.
Gage.
Yeah. But that was that movie came out, I don't know, it probably came out in like 88, 89 maybe, somewhere in there.
Well, I went to it. I've said this a million times.
Front row? Is that your front row movie?
It's the only movie I ever saw in the front row. Went with a girl like the week before prom. So it was 89 for sure.
Yeah.
Sometimes back row is better.
Yeah. So, but yeah, great movie.
Oh my god!
I don't even know what that means.
That was great.
He's trying to build off of last week's Punky Brewster thing he did, or 2 weeks ago. But yeah, Pet Sematary. Of course, I remember being glued to the TV in the TV miniseries when it came out. The big tube.
Oh yeah,
that's
a good one.
And John Boy's big mole he had on his face. And
my goodness, the Langoliers. I remember watching that with Bronson Pinchot.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, and there's, Carrie is a huge classic, iconic movie. There's so many. I'm not the expert in any way on this subject. If I could right now, I would, pass my vote on to Justin, but I can't.
Oh no, he doesn't get a vote. That's the beauty of this.
And I'm sure he won't comment
you could probably
on the episode
text him.
either.
He would answer within 30 seconds.
That's probably true.
I know his answer anyway, but
yeah, I think for me, I think it's it.
It. Okay. So what do you think?
Yeah. So I was never a big horror fan growing up, but like I said, my older brother Justin, several years older than me, so he was into this stuff before I was ready for it. So I would see these books laying on the floor of his bedroom, and like the covers of them freaked me out. Like he had the cover to The Stand had like an angel and a demon fighting with sword. Like the demon had a big sickle and the angel had a sword. I was like, that looks scary. And you see the fingers reaching out of the storm drain, these big green, like a knuckles. So many knuckles.
I'll tell you,
Stephen King loves knuckles.
Knuckles.
So if I've ever said anything, it's that Stephen King loves knuckles.
I remember 4th or 5th grade walking around into one of my reading class or whatever. Some dude had The Stand. He was reading The Stand like casual. That thing looks like it weighs 5 to 10 pounds paperback.
Take up your whole backpack.
It's huge.
It's a good book.
So Justin may deny this story, but from what I always heard, when he was in the middle of reading it, my mother was in the basement ironing. And when you think the iron hits the ironing board,
he's making the motion right now, her guys.
It makes kind of a rhythmic sound. And the story I heard is it sounded like something crawling up the steps. some weird thumping noise coming from the basement, and I heard it, freaked him out. But he'll have to confirm that or deny it.
Yeah, on some other podcast.
Right.
Whatever.
Start his own podcast.
Refuting us.
Let me jump in one more time here,
Sure,
real quick. I think it was first year of high school. I was reading 4 Past Midnight. I believe there's a story in there called The Sundial. All right, this is a story about this guy who gets a camera and he continues to take pictures, and he can't, it's not taking pictures right. But he notices that as the more pictures he takes, it's like a Polaroid, it gets more clear and more clear until he realizes it's like this dog getting ready to come out of the picture. I mean, of course, he can't believe that. That's not going to happen until it actually happens. Well, I read that, and I was walking down the street one day at my house, and I'm like out in the country, and all of a sudden, it's going through my head, and a damn dog runs up and just starts barking at me, scared the ever-living crap out of me. So his writing...
Well, our world is part of the Dark Tower universe, so it's all tied together. You're a character in
his
this
writing
world.
could get to you. I mean, it could. I don't blame Justin.
The Shining's probably my favorite movie adaptation of his, but he's kind of disowned it, and it's different from the book.
Oh, yeah.
11/22/63, Jesse, I would definitely recommend that for you. The time travel story.
I've watched it. I haven't read it.
It's an excellent book, but I wouldn't call it kind of his typical story. It's kind of an abnormal kind of Stephen King story. I even gave it to my mom to read, and she's definitely not a horror person because I thought she would like the time travel aspects. On writing, I kind of forgot that one until you mentioned. I was an English major in college, and every semester we were assigned these books about how to write and how to construct sentences and how to engage an audience, and they're all terrible. I never learned anything from a book about how to write. Ever. And then I read that, and it clicked with, there's so much good stuff in that book. It's not about formatting and technique. It's about the thought process and what it takes to be a writer and the mindset of a writer. And that book was amazing. That's the best book I probably read in college. The Stand might be his best written book. That, like I said, it's a brick. It's 900 pounds, but it goes really fast and it's super engaging, and the writing is excellent.
Another miniseries that came out on TV.
And a good miniseries.
It's happening again.
But I can't vote against The Dark Tower. I've read every book in the series.
You're still waiting to play that game, aren't you?
Play the game.
The Dark Tower.
Oh, yes. That's hidden in the closet somewhere. That's
Justin's
another thing I wasn't allowed to play.
He's probably got up in Cleveland now.
Board game? Or
yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, it was a game from the 80s my brother owned that Jared and I were not allowed to touch. It was not affiliated with Stephen King, but it was called The Dark Tower.
I was like, wait. All
right. So this is the one where the movie is a knock against it. Mm-hmm. The movie was not great, but yeah, Dark Tower for me is it. It's fantasy, it's horror, it's exciting. Like I said,
have you forgotten the face of your father? Is that how it goes? Yeah, something like that.
I do not. I'm not gonna do that. Yeah. I was gonna power through on the Gunslinger Credo, but
I don't want to let
I'm not
gonna
down. Embarrass myself.
Yeah, same here.
So yeah, to me, it's Dark Tower for sure. Wizard and Glass is my favorite of the book. The flashback story, Volume 4.
Okay.
Let's see. I'll list some of my faves. I also like 11/22/63. In fact, I think I suggested it to Jordan to read. The Hulu series. I think with Cliff's favorite guy. I like the Dark Half. I think was the name of it. That was a good book. I like Joyland. Was just a paperback he came out with. It was 8 years ago, maybe. I know they're making a series about it too, but it's like there's a summer read if you ever want one. I love one of the 4 stories in one of his collections. I think the Bachman books, or different seasons, maybe it was it. But The Long Walk. I love that story. It's like a reality show, basically. All these guys, like 15 or 16 years old, have to just walk. And whoever the last one alive is wins. Somebody's going to make a show about this at some point, or it's going to be a movie. I mean, it was just great. I love it. Pet Sematary is a classic. It's one of his best books. I'm not too keen on the movie, and I didn't see the new one, but it's not like getting a bunch of rave reviews. Misery is a killer book. It's the first one I read. Made me fall in love with Stephen King books, so it means a lot to me. And the movie is great. It's probably the best adaptation that there has been of any of his works.
And has already appeared on the Poobah's Top 100.
Yes, it has.
Just recently, too.
Yeah, it's in the top 50 for sure.
I'm your number one fan. There is nothing to worry about.
You're gonna be just fine. I'll take good care of you.
I'm your number one fan.
Where?
We're just outside Silver Creek.
How long?
You've been here 2 days. You're gonna be okay. My name is Annie Wilkes.
My number one fan.
Yes, that's right. I'm also a nurse.
And let's see, I got I love Eyes of the Dragon. It's kind of a fairy tale. If you've never read it, it's a total departure from what he does. I've always loved it. It's got a character named Roland. It's got a character named Flag. I mean, it's very reflection of some of his other stories. And, so I've always loved it. But, the man in black fled across the desert. And the gunslinger followed. I love that series. It encompasses so much. I think eventually they'll get it right on screen. We get all those books, right? Don't we? If we answer that. Yes. I loved all the books, but when I got to the end of the third book, I hope we're getting this right. It was that book, right, Jesse? At the end. I love Drawing of the Three, but you get. I think it's Wastelands. At the end, they get on that train and they're going to have a contest, and I swear the last things they say is "Let's begin," and I was like, "Oh my gosh!"
Yeah, imagine
we're just getting started at the end of the third book.
Imagine that being the first book that you had a chance to read in that series.
Yeah.
And how long did we have to wait too?
Between it depends when you read them, because I did not. It was a wait for me. Also, That's when I read the series. Was after the third book was out, but the fourth one wasn't.
Yeah, we're waiting.
So I don't know exactly the breakdown of the years, but I read I know it had been a long time, but I read those 3 books, and then I maybe waited a year or something for Wizard and Glass, which is even better, and is my favorite of the series. I agree, and it has the flashback and how he has to, I don't want to spoil that. You should, if you're ever thought about reading the series, read it, and then they'll blow your mind. Finish to the whole series,
which is controversial. A lot of people didn't like,
but I love the ending, and I love the thought of it, and if have you ever finished the series?
I can tell you, I've got to the end of 3, halfway through 4, and then I got the rest of the books from the library and read none of them and had to take them back.
Right. Yeah. Well, someday you'll have some time and sit down and read them, but that's my vote. Also, I think we get so much by picking that.
And it took him. He wrote the first one in the 70s when he was a young man. With a completely different outlook. He published these over the course of a lifetime and a career writing books, and incorporated more and more. He was hit by a van between
that's the
books.
Yeah.
Nearly didn't get to finish his magnum opus.
Man, were we on pins and
needles? Am I going to blow? I mean, what book's that in? He incorporates that into the Dark Tower, correct? He goes and finds himself after the wreck and stuff like it. I barely remember exactly what happened, but it's so meta, and you got to read this stuff.
I've got to finish it. It's been on the chore list for a long, long time.
I love it. I think we're going to please our Stephen King sensei.
Yeah, I don't know how much of a spoiler this is, but I said I was not a huge fan. I wasn't really, but then reading the first one I read where he walks into a town. It's just kind of a gunslinger, dusty old cowboy. And then he walks into a town and you hear the piano player playing Hey Jude.
Yeah.
And that's when it clicked in my head, like, whoa, this is something different.
Yeah.
Yep.
This is like, where are we? When are we? What is this? What dimension is this? And it just goes from there to beyond what you could even believe.
Yeah. It's great. We're not overhyping it. Check out the Dark Tower. Can't possibly be crazy hyperbole.
Don't let him get into your head. I do not aim at my head. He who aims at his hand has forgotten the face of his father. I aim with my eye. I do not shoot with my hand. He who shoots with his hand has forgotten the face of his father. I shoot with my mind. I do not kill with my gun. He who kills with his gun has forgotten the face of his father. I kill with my heart.
I think we did it. Great pick,
John. Dark Tower, definitely.
You killed it, Jesse. So, what are we doing now? We ran out of time, right, Cliff? Cliff's like,
we're pushing it.
Yeah, we got 6 minutes left, guys.
Gaming.
Let's do some games.
Challenge your imagination to come alive and to battle with the creatures of Dungeons and Dragons.
52!
You shot my battleship.
I got a bingo! What do I win?
It's Operation the Wacky Doctor's game where you're the Wacky Doctor. Batteries not included.
I blew it. My turn.
Shall we play a game?
Hey guys, I went to Origins in Columbus. It was the second biggest gaming convention in the country, and I bought some stuff for my Dragon Age game. Surprised my players. It'll be great. Jordan, what's going on in games?
Man.
Boom, man. We got
bullet points.
We did. You came home completely broke.
Wow, fun's over.
Yeah.
Back to business.
So this is just the warm up to Gen Con, the real, the Super Bowl of gaming.
I can only do so many cons here.
And hit North End Market.
North Market, yes.
North End Tavern. What they call it?
Yes, you're naming a lot of freaking Parkersburg places. North Market in Columbus, yes. I had meat.
You
had Nick likes to go to the meat place. It's just like brisket and wings and all kinds of stuff.
In this place, do you eat meat?
Yes, we do.
You are the Joker.
Yes.
Oh, I thought there'd be a little more to that story. I don't want to carry the gaming segment.
Nope, you're doing it.
Oh my!
I picked up a game today. I swung by Marietta, Ohio's Tabletop Puzzles and Games.
They were open?
A new shop on Putnam Street. Open from 10 to 6 if you go during postal hours.
I went there pre-6. They weren't open.
I went about 10:30 a.m. wide open. They're going to be a sponsor this year for one of the costume contest prizes at the River City Comic Arts Festival, July 28th in Marietta, Ohio. So I swung by and picked up the prize they're donating and had a little look around. And I'm not a huge gamer, but they had shelves full of new games, puzzles, and a bunch of classic games because they buy used ones. And I found a copy of Pit, a Parker Brothers game. It was copyright 1919. So a 100-year-old game. This game, my family has played this game my entire life. Is anyone familiar with it at all?
I vaguely remember playing it a long time ago, but we didn't play it very often.
So basically, you put a bell in the middle of the table, and it's the simplest game in the world to learn. It's basically like trading.
Yeah.
There's each hand, however many people are playing, you get that many cards of wheat and corn and flax and barley. So you get a random hand, and then somebody dings the bell, and the trading floor opens. So you're trying to get a hand of all the one suit. It's like 2. I need 2. You got 2? Give me 2, 2, 3, 3. I'll trade 3. So it's just a really quick game of trading, and then you get mad at that people hand you the same 2 corn back and forth, and you're like, stop it! So the pressure just rises and rises, and you end up screaming at each other until somebody slams the bell. Everyone throws their cards down and starts yelling.
It's like advanced spoons.
Yeah, I was going to say, I hate spoons. I hate it. Gosh, you could ask my daughter, you want to play spoons? No, I do not want to play spoons.
Yeah, people end up on their feet throwing cards at each other, but my grandmother was known for reaching out a single finger and tapping the bell, like ding, like, and she would win and just like under the radar. But everyone else is full arm swing, like diving for the bell.
That's good.
So this was a game. It's basically the exact same game, just no bell. It was like gentlemanly game of pit. It was like raise your hand and declare you have cornered the market. It's like that wouldn't swing at the low house.
You were taking pictures of the instructions and posting them.
Yeah, awesome. They had all the instructions and everything. It was really cool.
That's awesome. Sounds like a cool find.
But this week recently was E3 Electronics Expo.
Yes.
We don't cover a whole lot of video games. Did anyone see any big game trailers or anything you're excited about?
There's some stuff.
We're not playing. We're not playing Spyfall anymore. You can answer.
Let's be a little more specific.
I used to love playing Call of Duty years ago, like Modern Warfare 2. I liked World at War. Those early ones, 8 or 10 years ago. But the new one looks pretty good. I'm kind of excited I might actually get the next one that comes out. It's a return to Modern Warfare type thing. So it's not so much futuristic, more. They're not running on walls and stuff as far as I'm aware, so I might try it.
At some point in my life, no, wait a second. The point in my life where I had kids changed my gaming habits big time. I can remember when I think it was Caleb was born. I was all about Modern Warfare 2. I played a ton of that. And then my son got old enough to play, and that made me decide that I'd never want to play a video game ever again. But things have changed. He's gotten a little bit older. We got him an Xbox One probably a couple years back and got Xbox Game Pass. So gaming-wise for me, it seems like I kind of gravitate towards the retro stuff. If it's kind of like an 8-bit or 16-bit style, but more evolved game mechanics or whatever. So I've been playing a game called For the King, and I'm pretty sure it's an independent developer, but it's a lot of fun. It's what they call a roguelike game, which I don't know if that goes over your guys' heads or not.
I know what it is.
Okay. So
where you go in and keep trying over.
It's very much like a tabletop game, too. You can only move so many spaces and blah, blah, blah. But anyway, I've been having a lot of fun with that, especially at the first 3 times that I've died and had to start the dang game over. But you learn more as you play. So, I've been paying attention to the E3 podcasts that have been going on. So let's hear it.
Borderlands 3. I really like Borderlands 2. So
I got my. What was he? Help me out. You gave him to me.
Claptrap.
Claptrap sitting at work. My Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. So
cool.
So the only thing that stuck out to me were the retro announcement of the replica arcade cabinets we're getting for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Marvel, and Star Wars. Mm-hmm. So this is the company Arcade 1-Up. They've already done Space Invaders, Galaga, Final Fight, Street Fighter 2, Rampage. So they're not full size, they're like 3/4 scale, so they're not quite 4 feet tall. So
yeah, you can purchase like an extra stand, I think, that can go underneath it if you want it to go up.
Yeah.
The only thing is that you remember TMNT. You remember the fun you had playing 4 people. It was a blast. You walk in there, you pop.
It'd be tough to get 4
the
people
X-Men
around
game.
That's exactly right. I'm thinking that there might be some space issues, but there's going to be 4 players. You can play 4 players on this thing.
Yeah, and being a little kid looking up at an arcade cabinet, you remember them probably a lot bigger than they are.
Yes,
so
sir.
if you're
Getting
now
up on the bar stool or whatever you get.
Now you're towering over them, like pushing the buttons. But it has all the original decals and all the components, so it looks like the original. It's just a little bit smaller, but probably easier to fit in your living room or your den. You assemble them yourself, basically like IKEA furniture. It comes in a flat box and you assemble them. And the older ones have ranged in price between $250 to $300. So expensive for one game, but I think pretty reasonable for a whole cabinet.
If I had the money, I'd blow it on it just so I could be like washing dishes or something and hear Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, hear that theme song hit on that game.
So the TMNT cabinet features 2 games, and it's the first one to have all 4 player controls, so you get all 4 from the original. The 1989 original TMNT game and 1991's Turtles in Time. Mm-hmm. It's estimated that one will be about $350 because you're getting a little bit more, extra controller. The Marvel Superheroes has 3 games in it and only 2 player controls. It's got the Capcom fighting game Marvel Superheroes, which I had never played.
Me and Ronnie did a commentary over Wolverine's playthrough on that. So if you go to YouTube, you can find that. And they played it on the very easy level. Very easy. Thanos had no chance.
And it has the X-Men fighting game Children of the Atom.
That's an old school, I think 89, I want to say.
Yeah, so
and I think we actually did a playthrough commentary on that one too.
Wow.
And The Punisher is the third game.
Now that one I've never seen in the arcade. I can remember the Nintendo game.
I did an image search and it looked kind of like side scroller, like so. Yeah,
No?
the first two looked like kind of Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, just kind of fighting games. Punisher looked more like
Double Dragon.
Like that kind of thing.
All right.
So I was shocked it does not include the X-Men game from 1992. Yeah, the classic everyone remembers.
That's the first thing I was thinking.
That's what I assumed it was, but it's not. So this one, they're saying it'll be about $300. And then they announced the Star Wars. We're going to get 3 games, the Atari versions of Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi, featuring the signature X-Wing pilot controller from the original cabinet. And they're calling this one, quote, under $500. So
$499.
So you guys have played that game where you're piloting the X-Wing?
I remember sitting down in the cabinet playing it. Oh, I just love that stuff.
Yeah.
I always wanted one.
Well, now under $500, it's yours.
I don't want the stand up.
You gotta. Number one, you got.
Well, it's so short. You can like get a beanbag probably.
Yeah, I need to be in my ship.
Yeah, I think the other Star Wars thing I saw, Lego Star Wars is coming out for like the entire Skywalker saga.
Yeah, now Nick and I were talking about it because when he was younger, I mean, we played the heck out of those games.
Yes.
When they came out, that was something that was fun for me and him. It was easy enough that a child could play it, and you're just going, do it.
Yeah.
Just great. Collecting those coins or whatever, just at the top of the screen, just it's as Cliff would say, a wonderful experience.
That's right.
So
that's what I remember. My son was about the same age too at that time, and we played a lot of that.
So I mean, nobody had to be good. It was just great.
Just
I mean, I really loved doing that. I have great memories of that. So we kind of talked about like, are we going to play this game together?
Yeah. So my understanding is the older versions of the individual movies are going to stay the same.
Oh yeah,
they're going to be in it.
Oh, cool.
And then they're just going to add to that. Yeah.
So yeah, I think that when Nick was telling me that the one for The Force Awakens that they came out with was just that movie, and everybody complained, but this was going to have all the movies apparently in some form. So probably
pretty cool.
Probably get that one. Next year's going to be the big announcements. I think next year's E3 is going to be big. There's going to be some PS5 and things like that.
Yeah, the consoles. They were.
Yeah, those people didn't show up this year. Really, there wasn't like on the floor wasn't Microsoft and PlayStation stuff. They had like a Microsoft event or whatever. But next year's going to be bigger.
Right.
So, do you guys want to talk about something else?
I think
I'd say that about wraps us up.
Does
it. We did it.
A lot of stuff has come out on streaming lately that we'll get to later.
Yeah.
TV, we're kind of a holding pattern for the summer.
Big Brother's coming.
There's no Riverdale, but there's always something worth watching. We got more movies to watch, more Top 100 on Facebook, more always coming at you from comic book world, the movie world, the pop culture world. Jesse Starcher, thanks once again. 3 episodes in a row. You're becoming a regular. Thanks for sticking in with us.
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for having me, Ka-Pow. I appreciate it.
Let us know. Plug away, my friend.
I shall plug right here. Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, go give the Rattleage in Broadcasting Network Facebook page a like to stay up on top of all the great podcasts that we have to offer. We talk comics, we talk wrestling, we talk music, we talk TV, all sorts of fun stuff. I'm keeping them short here. Let's get the heck out of here.
I hear you.
I never think to plug my stuff until we have a guest in here that plugs his stuff. So, Asylum Comics, 212 3rd Street in Marietta. Come by a comic. River City Comic Arts Festival coming up in July.
Very soon.
lowwords.wordpress.com. SoProComics.com. We got a whole bunch of kid-friendly comics coming at you soon this summer. Thank you. My name is Jordan Lowe.
I'm Cliff Barnes.
I'm Seth. Goodbye forever. Thank God.
Ka-Pow, the pop culture podcast, is intended for entertainment and information purposes only. Sounds, music, and clips played during the podcast are property of copyright holders. All original content is property of www.udownwithkpp.com.
You act like you know it so well.
KPP.com. I know his NPR voice.
Oh, man.
It is weird to hear it in one speed because I don't think I've ever.
That's hilarious.
I have never.
We probably sound like we're drunk.
Seriously, when I've started podcasts and I've always had them at 2. It was so cool. A couple days ago, Kira was. What was I doing? I hopped on Spotify for something. I'm looking down at it, and the way Spotify works, if you don't have a family plan, you can't use it if somebody else is using it. So it'll pop up there and say, "Oh, somebody's in using it." And I said, Kira, so I just went past and I saw she was actually listening to a podcast. I said, I sent her a message, said, "Are you listening to a podcast?" It's something like Teenager Emo or something. I have no idea, but it was something like that. Anyway, she goes, "Yeah, I'm listening to a podcast." And I said, "You want to know what makes me the proudest?" I said, "It got a little 2x down there." She's listening at 2 speed. So I go in there today. I said, "You listen to that podcast again?" Because she was sitting there braiding, and it was, there was a podcast going. But it sounded awful slow to me. And I said, she goes, "Yeah, I had to put it back down to 1x, Dad. You can't be too proud of me." I was like, "All right."
That's funny. That is
2x speed.
Crazy.
Oh, we did it.
That was a long. What? Putting in the drop?
Yeah, somebody else.
You gave him 45 seconds.
I know. I went on. I could see his eyes moving. He's looking for it.
One job.
If he does the opening again like he did earlier, it'd be great.
For educational and informational use only. Sounds, clips, and music heard are property of respective owners. All other copyright KPP.
Oh, you took a leap you shouldn't have took. You can't climb back up there. You thought, I've got this. Let me go.